The story follows a girl named Park, who lived with a disturbingly evil father named Joe. He destroyed her childhood, killed her mother and left her with painful memories. Despite everything, Park managed to survive using her instincts and eventually escaped. She rebuilt her life and became a renowned forensic doctor, now living what seems like a normal life. But that normal life is about to be shattered. Her father, Joe, is still alive, and he's back to his old, twisted ways. He starts stalking a female student and eventually kidnaps her. The next morning, the police discover a young woman's dead body wrapped in plastic. Officer Kong, unable to make sense of the crime, turns to Park for help. Known for solving complex murder cases, Park agrees to assist. As she performs the autopsy, something unusual catches her attention, a smell that triggers a buried memory. Digging deeper, she finds a thread on the body. Suddenly, she's hit with a flashback, a horrific scene from her childhood when she saw her father Joe murder someone. Determined to uncover the truth, Park investigates further. She learns that the body was left out in an open field, as if the killer wanted someone to find it. It feels like a sick game, a challenge. On her way home, Park rides the bus with her colleague, Mr. Ho. He's frustrated about a difficult case and asks for her help to earn a promotion. When Park refuses, he becomes angry, unaware that Joe, her criminal father, is secretly listening to their conversation. When Mr. Ho reaches home, he's suddenly attacked from behind by Joe. Using a drug to weaken him first, Joe then brutally snaps Mr. Ho's neck with his bare hands, ending his life in cold blood. Meanwhile, as Park digs deeper into the murder case, she begins to notice disturbing similarities. The method of killing, the way the body was left, everything matches what her father used to do to his helpless victims. She remembers how, as a child, she was forced to cover up his crimes just to survive and avoid punishment. Around the same time, a young girl is seen quietly leaving a suitcase in a deserted alley. Later, police discover a body stuffed inside the bag. Officer Kong begins to suspect that the same person is behind both murders. His hunch grows stronger when investigators find a familiar thread on the second victim, just like the one found earlier. Kong doesn't waste any time. He rushes to meet Park at the hospital and informs her about a dismembered body discovered in another city. Just like the previous case, this one also had a similar thread found on the victim. Park immediately begins the autopsy. As she examines the remains, she makes a chilling discovery: a severed thumb. Running a fingerprint scan, Park is shocked to learn the identity of the victim. It's Mr. Ho, their own team member. She quickly informs Kong, who begins an investigation. But things take a sudden turn. Since Park was the last person seen with Mr. Ho, Kong starts to suspect her involvement in the murder. Park, however, insists she parted ways with Mr. Ho halfway through the journey and returned to the hospital, where she stayed the entire night. At the police station, officers review CCTV footage from near the crime scene. They spot a suspicious van parked nearby. Tracing the vehicle's registration, they track down an address and arrest a shady-looking man who perfectly matches the image of a known runaway criminal. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Park is already piecing the puzzle together. Deep down, she knows the murderer is her own father. But she needs solid proof, something undeniable. Thinking fast, Park comes up with a clever plan. She remembers the duct tape used on the victim and suspects that the killer might have accidentally left a fingerprint on it. The forensics team gets to work, and soon the results are in. A fingerprint was found on the tape, and now Park is just one step away from the truth. The next day, Park receives a call from Officer Kong. He tells her that the police have caught the owner of the van used to dump the body in the field. Wasting no time, Park rushes to the station, her heart pounding. She's bracing herself for the worst, convinced that the man might be her father. But when she finally lays eyes on the suspect, she lets out a quiet sigh of relief. It's not him. The man, however, insists he's innocent. He claims he was only at the location to make a delivery. Still, the officers remain skeptical. His shady appearance and nervous behavior raise several red flags. Then, the man drops a bombshell. He says he was delivering a life-sized, human-like doll shipped directly from Japan, wrapped in plastic polythene. Thanks to the explanation and shipping documents, the man manages to clear his name. The police confirm his delivery story, and he is released. The next day, at a press conference, Park addresses the media. She announces that the same fingerprint was found on both victims, strongly suggesting this is the work of a serial killer. With frustration in her voice, she refers to the murderer as a narcissistic psycho jerk, warning the public to remain alert. Unbeknownst to her, Joe is watching the press conference live. Hearing his own daughter describe him with such harsh words wounds him deeply. Her disgust, her rejection, it cuts him more than he expected. Rage and pain brew inside him. Just then, a customer walks into his small dry cleaning shop to complain about a stain on her clothes. At first, Joe tries to stay calm and polite, listening to her complaints. But when the woman demands a refund and begins raising her voice, something snaps inside him. Unable to control his growing anger, Joe gives in to his dark impulses once again. Moments later, the woman goes missing, becoming the next victim in Joe's twisted pattern. The next morning, while chatting casually with his neighbors, Joe overhears something that sends a chill down his spine. Park is moving to his city. And not just anywhere, she's moving into the very same apartment building as him. At that very moment, Park visits the site of one of the recent murders. But for her, it holds far deeper meaning. It's the same place where, years ago, she had dropped a bag containing her own mother's lifeless body. The memory comes rushing back. She was just a little girl, happily celebrating her birthday with her mother, when her father suddenly burst in, furious. He dragged her mother into an empty room. Park, too terrified to scream or cry, could only watch in horror. Instead of mourning, she began wiping the floor clean of blood, desperately trying to erase any trace of what had happened, just to avoid her father's wrath. Back in the present, Joe is already preparing his next gruesome gift for Park, the woman he murdered at the laundry shop. Her body is now staged, waiting to be discovered. Later that night, while Park is returning home, she stumbles upon the lifeless body of a woman. The way it's posed reminds her eerily of a doll she once had as a child. It's not just coincidence, it feels like a direct message. Suddenly, her phone rings. The number is unknown. She hesitantly answers, and the moment she hears the voice on the other end, her blood runs cold. It's him. The father she believed to be dead is very much alive. Joe's voice on the phone is strangely calm, almost soothing. He tells Park that he remembers her birthday and has even prepared her favorite childhood meal, just like old times. Park can't help but feel uneasy. She wonders if this is his twisted way of taking revenge for her betrayal all those years ago. Park remains suspicious but surprisingly doesn't hesitate. She eats the food, unable to tell whether it's a trap or a genuine gesture from a man with a warped sense of love. Meanwhile, the police are called to the scene of the third murder. As they investigate, they're surprised to find Park already there. To them, it's suspicious. One victim was her own teammate. Now another body shows up right near the place Park recently rented. Whispers start among the officers. Could she be the killer? Park is stunned by the accusations. She finds it absurd that the very person working to uncover the murderer is now under suspicion. She explains that she rented the place to better observe the area and stay close to the investigation. The reasoning is convincing enough to ease their doubts, for now. Later, during the post-mortem of the newly found body, Park uncovers something deeply disturbing. Hidden inside the victim is a small cutout photo, an old picture of Park as a child, standing beside her older sister. She instantly recognizes it. It was taken by Joe himself, years ago. A sick message, meant just for her. Officer Kong quickly takes a photo of the disturbing discovery. Meanwhile, Joe is on the move with someone unexpected, a young girl who seems to be his accomplice. Together, they arrive at an old, abandoned house, the same place where Joe used to commit his crimes years ago, often forcing Park to clean up after him. Unbeknownst to him, Park is heading to the exact same place, drawn by her instincts and painful memories. When she arrives, she's taken aback. The house, once rotting and forgotten, now looks recently painted. The air is heavy. Inside, she finds a desk with surgical tools carefully arranged, as if someone had just been there preparing for something. Her heart races. Suddenly, a little girl bursts into the room. She's wearing a school uniform and clutching something close to her chest, Park's old childhood doll. Before Park can process anything, the girl calls out, "Father," and runs away. Stunned, Park follows her into the hallway, confused and shaken. And then she sees him, Joe, rushing toward her with alarming speed. Park braces herself, heart pounding, ready to fight. But instead of attacking, Joe suddenly grabs her in a tight embrace. At the same time, Officer Kong is making a breakthrough. He uncovers an old murder case from 25 years ago. Joe was the prime suspect, but was released due to lack of evidence. Now, the pieces are starting to fit. Soon, a sketch artist draws the adult version of the little girl in the photo, which is similar to Park, but luckily Park had done a nose job to alter her identity. Joe, on the other hand, believes Park has finally come back to him, not as an investigator, but as his daughter. He claims that the little girl Kim is not truly his. "She's adopted," he says with eerie calmness. "But you are my real blood. You belong here, with me." But Park's heart is burning with something else, revenge. The memory of her mother's murder fuels her rage. She can't forget. She won't forgive. With fury in her eyes, she attacks Joe, aiming to end it once and for all. But Joe is still strong. Cold and calculated, he blocks her assault with ease and quickly overpowers her. Desperate, Park bites down on his hand hard. Joe yells in pain. Without wasting any time, she lunges at him again, determined to kill him. But just as she's about to strike, zap! A sharp jolt hits her body. The little girl, standing behind her, has fired a taser gun, straight at Park. Later, when Park wakes up, she finds herself covered in blood, though she's not physically hurt. She quickly washes herself, her mind drifting back to the past, remembering moments she spent with her older sister. Back then, their lives were completely different. While her sister lived a relatively normal life, Park was trapped in darkness. She was more like Joe's crime partner than his daughter, forced to clean up his messes instead of receiving any real love. But now, Park has a new plan. She wants to get close to Joe again, not out of love, but to wait for the perfect moment to take revenge and finally kill her evil father. Meanwhile, Kong and his junior officers arrive at Joe's laundry shop to investigate. The last place the murdered woman was seen alive was here. Joe, calm and confident, tells them that the woman did come, but only to pick up her clothes. After that, he claims, she left and never returned. He pretends to know nothing about her disappearance or murder. Kong is still highly suspicious of Joe, especially knowing he was a suspect in a murder case 25 years ago. While investigating the shop, Kong comes across a locked door. Curious, he opens it and steps inside. The room is dark and eerie, filled with an unsettling atmosphere. As he looks around, he finds a woman's clothes dumped in a trash bin. Just then, Joe quietly approaches Kong from behind, as if he's hiding something or planning to act. But Kong remains calm and leaves the shop quickly, not letting Joe see any concern. At the same time, Park is lurking outside, trying to learn more about the little girl living with Joe. As she investigates, she spots an old wanted poster with her face on it. Luckily, her appearance has changed due to plastic surgery, so no one recognizes her. As she continues walking, she suddenly runs into Kong. He notices red marks on her face and becomes concerned, but Park avoids giving any explanation. Meanwhile, Joe watches from a distance and sees Park standing outside, talking to the police. Later, Park returns to her apartment. To gain Joe's trust, she deletes the evidence she had gathered from previous murder cases. She even speaks with Joe about creating a fake suspect by planting someone else's DNA on Mr. Ho's remaining body parts, which Joe still keeps hidden. Following Joe's instructions, Park goes to the house of a criminal named Jay to secretly collect his DNA and frame him for the murders. But while she's inside gathering the evidence, she discovers something shocking. Joe has already attacked Jay, intending to use his death to frame her instead. Meanwhile, Joe instructs his adopted daughter, Kim, to plant hidden cameras around the house to record Park coming out, making it look like she's the killer. But things don't go as planned. Jay isn't dead yet. He suddenly regains consciousness and attacks Park, believing she's the one who tried to kill him. A violent struggle breaks out. As Jay tries to choke her, Park's mind flashes with rage. In a moment of panic and fury, she grabs a nearby dumbbell and strikes him. And Jay collapses to the ground. Now, Park has truly crossed the line. She has committed murder, just like her father. In shock, she stuffs Jay's body into a suitcase, unaware that the hidden cameras Kim planted are recording everything. She returns to her apartment and, using surgical tools provided by Joe, performs a grim procedure on Jay's body to complete the plan. The next morning, she calls Joe and tells him it's done. Joe, surprisingly gentle in tone, apologizes for dragging her into this. He admits that framing her was the only way he could be sure of her loyalty. Park, holding back her anger, calmly insists they meet, on her terms, at a place she chooses. At the same time, Kong begins to suspect Park is hiding something. He discovers that some details are missing from the autopsy report. Curious and concerned, he sets out to look for her. Meanwhile, Joe arrives at the location where Park asked to meet. But when he looks inside the car, there's no one there. He calls her phone, but hears it ringing from the back seat. As he opens the bag in the car to investigate, Park suddenly appears and strikes him with a metal rod. Unbeknownst to her, Joe's little companion, Kim, is nearby and manages to stay hidden. Park ties Joe up and draws his blood to place his DNA on the dead bodies, aiming to finally frame him. But Joe just laughs. He reminds her that, officially, he's already dead, there's no record of him being alive. Furious, Park tries to choke him, but just then, a truck's siren goes off. Distracted, she rushes to check. At the same time, Kim uses the opportunity to free Joe. Before Park can disable the siren, she turns, and finds Joe and Kim standing right in front of her. Enraged, Joe grabs Park by the neck, punishing her for trying to kill him, claiming she's turned on her own father. But before he can finish the job, an on-duty guard hears the commotion and interrupts them. Park manages to escape and runs back to her rented apartment. There, she finds a mysterious bucket left behind by Joe. Suddenly, she starts hallucinating, visions of Joe attacking her, his terrifying voice echoing in her mind. Overwhelmed with fear, she tries to flee, but her mind is spinning, filled with horror. Before she collapses, Kong arrives and catches her just in time. He finds her bruised, exhausted, and barely conscious. As he helps her inside, he starts to understand. Park has been working non-stop to catch the killer. It's as if she's reliving something traumatic from her past, something she's been carrying for a long time. The next morning, when Park wakes up, she finds a smartwatch placed beside her, left by Kong. It's meant to help her stay safe and easily call for help if needed. Just then, her phone rings. It's Joe, her evil father. He wants to meet her again. But Park has no intention of walking into another trap. She has her own plan, to finally gather the evidence that will put Joe behind bars for good. She takes out the blood and hair samples she secretly collected from him and heads straight to the forensic lab. Once there, she cleverly distracts a junior doctor by asking for help with a fake case. While he's busy, she swiftly plants Joe's hair onto one of the victim's pieces of clothing, ensuring that it will later test positive for Joe's DNA. At the same time, Joe arrives at the police station with his own plan. He secretly brings the hidden camera footage showing Park disposing of a body. Though a police officer interrupts him, Joe cleverly places the sealed envelope containing the evidence where it will be found. Later, the police discover the envelope and open it. Inside, they find a USB drive. Curious, they check the contents and are stunned to see footage of a woman dragging a heavy suitcase. What shocks Kong the most is that the woman in the video looks exactly like Park. Around the same time, word begins to spread that Park may have tampered with autopsy reports, deleting important information from official records. Later that day, Park meets with Kong. He is visibly upset, confronting her for hiding so many things from him, especially after all his support. He even shows Park her photo while she was carrying Jay's body and asks if Park knows her. But Park stays silent. She doesn't want to share her pain or the truth. Instead, she tells Kong it's better if they stay away from each other. That same night, Kong and his team arrive at the house where Park had fought and killed Jay. A complaint from a neighbor led them there. While searching the scene, Kong finds a surgical tool engraved with Park's initials. The next day, the autopsy results are finally in. The forensic report confirms that the blood and hair found on the victim's clothes matched Joe's DNA. But the surgical instrument found at the crime scene belongs to Park. Now all the evidence starts pointing toward Park as the main suspect in the murders. Meanwhile, Park, feeling alone, frightened, and cornered, goes to visit an elderly woman in the hospital who is severely ill. Being there brings back memories of her kind older sister. Although their father treated them very differently, her sister had always cared for Park. She comforted her, guided her through the darkest moments, and gave her hope when she felt lost and unloved. At the same time, Kong and the other officers receive the order to arrest Park as the prime suspect in the serial murder case. Unaware of this, Park discovers an old notebook under her woman's pillow, most likely planted there by Joe. As she steps outside the room, she learns that the police are now actively searching for her. Realizing she's about to be caught, she quickly finds an exit and slips away. Kong spots her trying to leave and rushes after her, but Park manages to escape before he can catch up. With no other leads, the police raid Park's apartment. Inside, they find a smartphone, and in the bathroom, something horrifying, Mr. Ho's severed head, tied with the same type of thread used in the previous murders. Meanwhile, Park is on the run, hiding from the police as they search for her across the city. Kong, driven by both duty and personal concern, visits the old abandoned house once shared by Joe and Park. As the officers search the place, they spot what looks like blood on the ground, only to realize it's just red paint. But then Kong notices something strange: footprints. They match the shoe prints he found earlier in Park's apartment. Back at the abandoned house, Kong notices something unusual. Alongside Park's clear footprints, there's another one, faint and uneven, as if made by someone with a limp or a broken leg. Just like Joe. Meanwhile, Park arrives at Joe's shop, furious. She's enraged that Joe went to visit her sister and invaded another part of her life. In a fit of anger, she tries to kill him. But Joe is ready. He overpowers her and injects a sleeping drug into her neck. As Park loses consciousness, Joe drags her into the back of his truck, carefully staging the scene to make it look like he was the victim, and that Park is the true serial killer. When the police receive the tip, they quickly assume Park is the real murderer. Almost everyone believes the case is solved. Everyone except Kong. He still feels something's off and is convinced Joe is involved. But now the entire police department is focused on capturing Park, treating her as the prime suspect in all 3 murders. Far away from the city, Park lies unconscious in the back of a truck driven by Joe's young companion, Kim. To avoid being tracked, Kim throws away all of Park's electronic devices, except for one. She secretly keeps the smartwatch Kong gave Park, not realizing it could expose their location. Meanwhile, a new investigation team arrives at the police station to take over the case. They treat Park as the main criminal, and the new head officer refuses to listen to Kang's doubts about Joe. Tired of Kang's interference, the officer uses his authority to officially remove him from the case. But Kong isn't ready to give up. He knows the truth is being buried. Determined to uncover it, he grabs the case files and escapes the police station, now on his own mission to prove Park's innocence and expose Joe once and for all. Kong stops at the side of a highway and begins going through the case files. In the documents, he finds a reference to an orphanage where Park spent her early years. Curious, he travels there to learn more about her past. At the orphanage, he meets a nun who shares a troubling memory. Years ago, she brought in a mentally disturbed child who showed signs of a psychiatric disorder. The girl had a habit of catching animals and cutting them open. Because of this disturbing behavior, the orphanage eventually expelled her. The nun, however, took her in personally, and that child was Park. Meanwhile, the police are intensifying their hunt for Park, now fully convinced she is behind the serial murders. At the same time, Joe begins planning his escape. He wants to flee the country with Park, leaving behind his loyal companion, Kim. When Park finally wakes up, she struggles to break free and climbs out of the truck. Outside, she finds Joe and Kim waiting for her. Joe remains calm and unties her. Then, he shows her a video, secret footage of Park's own colleagues and superiors blaming her for past mistakes. They're using her as a scapegoat. Joe uses this to manipulate her, claiming he's the only person in the world she can truly trust. He tells her about his plan to abandon Kim and escape with Park by boat to a faraway place. But Park is disturbed. Despite everything, she sees how much Kim genuinely loves Joe as a father, and Joe is ready to throw her away like nothing. Filled with rage, Park tries to stab Joe with a knife, but the attempt backfires. Joe grabs the knife and punishes her by cutting her fingers, coldly reminding her what happens when she turns against him. Back at the police station, a shocking twist occurs. Jay, the man who was believed to be dead, suddenly arrives. He tells the police that Park had actually saved him. She found him injured, performed surgery to keep him alive, and told him to stay hidden for his own safety. The next morning, Kong receives news. The most recently missing victim Jay is alive. He confessed that Park had nothing to do with the attack. In fact, she treated his wounds. He also recalls a specific scent from his attacker, a scent that Kong immediately recognizes from Joe's laundry shop. Kang's junior officers try to convince the new investigation team to refocus their attention on Joe, but the new team remains obsessed with blaming Park. Even so, Kang's loyal team members decide to support him in secret. They call him and suggest meeting at Joe's shop to search for evidence. They quietly investigate the shop, but something feels off. There are no fingerprints anywhere, not even Joe's. It's been completely wiped clean, exactly the kind of move a smart and experienced criminal would make. Before they can dig deeper, Joe unexpectedly returns to the shop. Luckily, thanks to one of Kang's quick-thinking junior officers, they manage to escape unseen. Meanwhile, Park is bleeding heavily from her hand and on the verge of losing consciousness. Through her blurry vision, she spots Kim, wearing the smartwatch Kong gave her. Thinking fast, Park calmly convinces Kim to charge the watch and press the red emergency button. At the same time, Joe rents a car to move forward with his escape plan. The police catch wind of this rental and begin tracking it. Joe arrives at his parked truck, preparing to leave with Park for the ship that will help them escape. Kong, tracking the rental car's location, notices a suspicious truck parked in a remote area. Suspecting it might be Joe's, he begins following it. But Joe, alert as always, senses he's being followed. To throw him off, Kong suddenly takes a sharp left turn and disappears from the truck's trail. Later, Joe stops the truck and sends Kim to a nearby pharmacy to get medicine for Park. That's when Kong returns to the scene and spots Kim near the vehicle. However, Kim can't get the medicine without a doctor's prescription, so Joe is forced to take Park out of the truck himself. They head to the pharmacy, but Park has other plans. Inside, she uses pepper spray on Joe and tries to escape with Kim. But because of Kim's hesitation, Joe catches up to them quickly and violently beats Park down. Just as things get worse, Kong suddenly arrives to rescue her. Before Kong can get Park to safety, Joe pulls out a knife and stabs him multiple times, then continues to beat him. Even in his injured state, Kong fights back and holds Joe off long enough for more police officers to arrive. But Joe, cunning as ever, grabs Kim and uses her as a human shield to escape once again. Kong is severely wounded and bleeding out, but thanks to quick action, both he and Park are rushed to the hospital just in time. Now that Joe has been exposed, most officers recognize him as the true serial killer. But the special investigation team still refuses to clear Park's name. That's when one of Kang's loyal officers presents solid evidence, proof of Joe's identity in a 25-year-old unsolved murder case. It's undeniable now. While Park lies unconscious in the hospital, disturbing memories of her elder sister and her twisted father haunt her dreams. Just as the nightmare intensifies, she suddenly wakes up, gasping for air. Later that day, a senior officer visits Park and shows her the old notebook found at the hospital. He asks about her relationship with Joe, but Park remains silent. Then he shows her a photo of her elder sister, asking who she really is, since no record of the girl exists after 2005. Park quietly requests one thing: a press conference. At the press conference, Park finally breaks her silence. She reveals everything about the serial murders Joe has committed over the past 25 years and pleads with the authorities to protect Kim, whose life is now in serious danger. Watching the news, Joe grows furious, not just with Park but with Kim as well. His anger hints that he may now want to kill Kim for betraying him. The next morning, Joe heads straight to the hospital, ready to bring Park back with him. Kong is flipping through Park's old notebook, piecing together more about her past. That's when Park, still weak but determined, visits him. They sit together, and she opens up about her elder sister, the only true friend she had after losing her mother. Her sister was kind, gentle, and the one who taught Park how to write, count, and draw. But everything changed the day her sister found out about their father's horrifying crimes. Terrified, she fled with Park. However, Park couldn't run for long. Joe eventually caught up with him. He tried to drag Park back with him, but her sister stood up to him. Joe pushed her aside, causing a serious head injury, and even tried to throw her down the hill. However, Park's sister stood up and, with all her strength, she pushed Joe down the hill, saving Park. Lost deep in the jungle, with no one to help them, Park could only watch helplessly as her beloved sister died in her arms. Park was eventually found and rescued, but the pain of losing her sister never left her. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Joe, disguised as a doctor, sneaks in and confronts Park. He blackmails her, using Kim as leverage. He warns her, "If you don't come back to me, she dies." Joe then tries to leave the hospital unnoticed. However, his escape doesn't go entirely as planned. A suspicious news reporter recognizes Joe and starts following him, hoping for a big scoop. After trailing him for hours, Joe catches on and hides. At the same time, Kim, feeling hungry and alone, walks to a nearby store for food. But the shop owner recognizes her from the news and stares at her curiously. Kim panics and quickly runs away. The reporter sees Kim too, and instantly recognizes her from Park's press conference. Sensing a huge opportunity and potential reward, he follows her all the way back to the house Joe is hiding in. But before he can alert the police, Joe murders him in cold blood. The next morning, Kim sits silently on a foggy hill. Joe calls her back into the truck, but something's different. He's cold, tired, and distant. It becomes clear he's done caring for the girl who once saw him as a father. He gets rid of her too. Later, the police discover Kim's clothes scattered on a random street. Horrified, Kong rushes to the hospital to inform Park. She insists on leaving immediately to search for Kim, but Kong refuses. He's afraid Joe will come for her again. Feeling helpless and guilty, Park starts to break down. Then, unexpectedly, she receives a bouquet of flowers with a mysterious note. It contains the name of a specific landmark. Realizing it might be a clue, Park quickly comes up with a plan to escape the hospital. She quietly slips out of her room, grabs surgical tools and some drugs, and leaves the building without anyone noticing. Meanwhile, Joe is deep in the jungle, transporting a strange blue drum. What's inside that drum is what no one wants to believe. As the search intensifies, Kong and the other officers arrive at Joe's house. There, they make a gruesome discovery: the news reporter's lifeless body hanging from ropes. Soon after, they locate Joe's truck abandoned near a dense jungle. The only thing inside is a set of surgical tools, no sign of Joe or Park. Meanwhile, Park is already on her way to the location marked in the mysterious flower message, the place where Joe once buried her mother. Elsewhere, Joe meets with a boat owner to arrange their escape. But when the man refuses to give him 2 seats, Joe, already frustrated and desperate, attacks him. He grabs the boat keys and sets off to meet Park, back at the very spot where his darkest crimes began. When Joe meets Park, she confronts him immediately. "Did you kill Kim?" But Joe dodges the question. He says Kim isn't important. "You and I are the only ones that matter. Run away with me." At that very moment, Kim regains consciousness. She finds herself trapped inside a sealed blue drum, weak and disoriented. Trying to break free, she remembers Park's words. If anything happens, press the red button on the watch. With what little strength she has left, Kim powers up the smartwatch and presses the emergency button. The alert and her location go straight to Kong. He realizes immediately, Kim has the watch. Without wasting a second, he rushes into the jungle. After a tense search, he finds the blue drum. Inside, Kim is unconscious but alive. He pulls her out just in time. Meanwhile, Park, exhausted from the endless pain her father has caused, makes a bold move. She drinks a sedative she brought with her, collapsing in front of Joe. In a panic, Joe tries to carry her to safety. But it was all part of her plan. Suddenly, she injects Joe with a drug, weakening him. This time, she has the power. Her hands tremble as she prepares to do to him what he's done to countless victims. But just as she's about to cross that line, the police arrive. Kong tells her that Kim is safe, and stops her before she becomes what she's always fought against. Afterward, Park is cleared of all charges. The truth finally comes to light. Her name is no longer tied to the murders. She starts a new life. This time, not as a victim, but as a guardian. She raises Kim with love, giving her the safe and peaceful life she never had herself. As for Joe, he rots in prison, completely insane, trapped in the nightmare he once forced upon others. This is the end of the story. I hope you had enjoyed it.